Well, we learned this week that a future Labor government will recognise Palestine without any preconditions whatsoever. As I said on Outsiders last week, in Europe, the UK and the USA, time and time again, it has been demonstrated that unequivocal support for the Palestinian cause not always, but frequently, is a cover for anti-Zionism and even anti-Semitism. Just think, Jeremy Corbyn in the UK, Linda Sarsour, Ilhan Omar, Rabid, whatever her name is, and others in the States. They go on. Now, I'm not accusing those within our own Labor Party of anti-Semitism. Settle down. Although some of the most senior figures in Labor have certainly raised eyebrows in the past. But that's in the past. What is disgraceful about this latest resolution by the ALP at their conference this week is that they had the opportunity at the national conference, thanks to the work of Michael Danby, the former Labor MP, and David Bliss, a union leader, to include in the resolution recognising Palestine a whole raft of preconditions showing support for Israel. 10 of them. But thanks to the work of people like Penny Wong, that was all ditched. And this motion goes ahead recognising Palestine without any guarantees for Israel. Draw your own conclusions why. Joining me now is David Adler, the head of the Australian Jewish Association, a former Deputy Secretary of the Australian Medical Association and a regular writer for The Spectator Australia. Indeed, David, you have had not one but two very powerful cover stories on The Spectator Australia in the last couple of years that relate to this and related topics. It's great to see you. How are you?
Thank you, Rowan, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about this really important issue.
Absolutely. So tell me, let's cut to the chase. Why did the ALP refuse the opportunity to guarantee protections to Israel?
I think this was a political setup, and I think it was a bungle, frankly. Not only are there no conditions, but they've also stated that this is their foreign policy priority.
Oh, my God.
This is the biggest thing. I mean, ignore China, North Korea, Iran. The whole focus is on supporting a non-existent Palestinian state. Now, I've had people tell me that this makes Labor unelectable. I don't quite believe that, but if it was an election focused on foreign policy, what Labor has done here for the first time in Australian history, and I think it's grossly misjudged the Australian people, it has aligned a mainstream political party with an ideology that is completely infested with terrorism. We know about the obscene pay for slay program.
Talk us through that. That was one of your Spectator articles about pay for slay.
Exactly.
Explain exactly what this is.
And the Australian money that was going to it. Well, this is a program that the Palestinian Authority is proud of. They have a budget for it. They've indicated that it is their highest financial priority to pay for the murder of Jews in Israel. They pay a stipend if the person is caught and jailed, or if they martyr themselves, if they become a shahad, then the family gets a lifetime pension. And hundreds of millions of dollars are involved. And one of the
I'll just step in here. You actually were very responsible, along with Pauline Hanson and others, in getting Australian tax dollars, which were going towards these programs. Some of it stopped, and well done for that, and Julie Bishop. But let's carry on. I just want to mention former Labor MP Michael Danby, who's obviously a strong supporter of Israel, claims that he was muzzled by Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese, shame on you two, when he tried to speak about this at the conference. Here's what he told Andrew Bolt last night.
I'm suppressed and censored. This part of the conference was a sham, an absolute sham. And I'm Penny Wong, I say this to you over TV because I couldn't speak to you at the conference. I would like an apology. I was discriminated against. You and your socialist left mates go on and on and on about how you're against discrimination. I was discriminated against. I was denied my legitimate right to speak under the standing orders of your conference against this thing. And a vast number of people in the Australian community are offended by the fact that no one was able to put that point of view to the Labor National Conference.
David, so what would you say to, I guess, members of the Jewish community who support Labor on this?
Well, I think a lot of them will be rethinking the support. Michael Danby is a member of the Jewish community and he's been obviously an advocate and a friend of Israel. For him not to be given an opportunity to state his case, he's been a member of the Labor Party for almost 40 years and he was denied an opportunity to speak. He was a registered delegate and that is extraordinary. So what we saw at this conference is not only a policy move in the direction of Jeremy Corbyn, but a tactical move in the direction of Jeremy Corbyn. And this is very worrying. It should be very worrying for all the Australian people who are not advocates of extremism. And
so to basically what we have a situation, if Labor get into power, you will have the Australian government, is it directly or indirectly actually supporting two entities, the Palestinian Authority and Hamas? Is this what they're supporting? Who knows? They didn't spell it out.
Correct.
Both these entities are responsible for paying to kill Jews.
Well, Hamas is a registered, prescribed terrorist organisation. So is Palestinian Islamic Jihad and a couple of other groups. The Palestinian Authority we have not prescribed as a terrorist organisation, even though we think that it does meet the definition. It publicly is proud of paying for terrorism. So all the entities there have a complete integration with the terrorism industry, and it's a massive thing. And for Labor to nail itself to this ideology is extraordinary, and I think it's the first time in Australian history that a mainstream party has come anywhere near this.
Well, Bob Hawke, the famous Labor Prime Minister, was a great, passionate supporter of Israel. What's happened to the Labor Party since then?
Yeah, exactly. I think Bob Hawke would be turning in his grave. And not only concerning the support for terrorism, but these regimes that Labor has now pledged to support seem to have an ideology contrary to what you would expect would be Labor values. They kill homosexuals. They suppress the rights of women, and it's an area that has very high rates of honour attacks and honour killings. So Labor says nothing about this. Some of the preconditions that people like Michael Danby wanted to insert...
They were perfectly sensible, I read them. They were all absolutely
would have, you know, a set of requirements to stop supporting terrorism, to stop an ideology of violence, to have free and fair elections. And
simply just to recognise Israel's right to exist.
Exactly.
Even that went out the window. Well done, Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese.
It's a disgrace.
You should hang your heads in absolute shame, and people should be thinking very, very seriously about supporting Labor going forward. Just quickly, David, I mentioned before that you were previously a Deputy Secretary of the AMA, the Australian Medical Association. Today, a 44-year-old Victorian man was hospitalised with blood clots after receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine. The TGA are now looking into investigating that. So I'm just saying, people like Matt Canavan, Craig Kelly and others have suggested a temporary suspension of AstraZeneca. What's your views from a medical point of view?
My view is that Australia does not have an acute problem. We're very lucky, we're very fortunate, we're an island. We've closed the international borders, which means we hardly have any cases. So it would be perfectly reasonable strategy to focus on supporting and protecting the most vulnerable, particularly those in aged care facilities where we've had the problem, to have good hotel quarantine. And frankly, for the rest of us, and particularly those that are, say, under 60 and relatively healthy, there is no urgency to be vaccinated in Australia. Even if you travel internationally, you can come back and go 2 weeks into hotel quarantine. So I think it's reasonable to pause the rollout of the AstraZeneca vaccine. I'm personally more inclined to the Pfizer one, which has had a lot less problems and happens to be the one used in Israel with very little side effect. But Australia has committed to the AstraZeneca one for a significant proportion, and I think pausing it is a reasonable thing to do at this stage.
Dr. David Adler, thanks so much for coming on, and I urge people to look at the Australian Jewish Association website. There's lots more on there and lots of your great writing in The Spectator Australia. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Rowan.
Great to see you.